Hello and welcome to the Fear Free Human dun 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 show. My name is Zen Cryer DeBrook, and I am here to bring you a system that will eliminate mental fear in your life. This is a program that's designated, I can say that word, to coaching. And the goal is to use the internal guidance system. We call it IGS for short, which is a proprietary system. Let me turn off my email here. I forgot to do that. Give me 1 second. It's a proprietary system that I decoded. I did not create it because every single human being in the world has been born with it. I coded it. I figured out how it worked over the period of time from 1993 until today. And I am still in the midst of figuring it out. I'm still in the midst of learning. I feel like I've got a really good basis of how it works. I have a ton of success with people, teaching them how to do it and eliminating mental fear. And what I mean by mental fear is it's whenever you feel anxiety, worry, overwhelm, frustration, irritation, that feeling where the center of you start getting tight inside and you start getting upset. Impatience is another one. When you're rushing, you feel like you're late and you're rushing around. Feeling like somebody's always mad at you, that anxiety that comes like you're thinking like somebody's upset, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Maybe you feel like people don't really like you, or you can't get ahead. You're not as good as other people. There's like, I'm not enough. All of this I consider to be mental fear. And mental fear gets programmed into you between the ages of 0 and 7. I don't believe that we arrive with our mental fear intact. Now, I do have to say that in all the years that I've been doing this and the research that I've personally done, I do think that we come into the world with our hereditary traits. There's some hereditary traits that are passed down through our lineage. There was a study, and I wish I could find it. I have been looking for it ever since I found it and read it. But basically what they did, and there's similar studies out there than just the one I'm going to talk to you about. This is epigenetics, which is, your genes and things that are passed down to you through your genes. But the thing is that they did a study where they took rats, poor rats, I feel sorry for them, but they took rats and they put them on a metal grate, and there was a walkway that was not the metal grate all the way around in a square. And they electrified the metal grate enough to where it was shocking. Like I would imagine kind of like the shock you get when you've been walking around with socks on your carpet, and you touch a light switch or something and you get that shock. And what happened was the rats learned to walk along the outsides of the grate. It would not walk on the grate. Then they bred those rats and they left the metal grate, but they didn't electrify it. And they found that the babies of the rats who had never had that experience walked around the outside of the grate. And it took 3 or 4 generations before. And then actually, I think the next test was not only did they walk on the outside of the grate, but they took the grate out and they put lines. So it wasn't even a metal grate anymore, and they wouldn't touch the lines. And it took 3 or 4 generations before the unelectrified group of rats were able to walk across those lines again. Now, it's a very interesting study if you talk about nature versus nurture. I personally believe that we're a combination of both. I've just seen too many different people that I actually do know. I had a friend who was adopted as a baby in the hospital, never knew her mother. And when they finally met when she was in her early 20s, the mother and her had the exact same actual physical mannerisms. The way they use their hands, the way they move their mouth, their facial expressions were the same. And they'd never watched each other. So there is a nature versus nurture. And then there's your personality itself. Are you somebody who is more of a quiet, introverted person or an extroverted person? There are traits that we come in with. Then on top of that, between the ages of 0 and 7, we have all of this mental stress. The way that our mind develops creates the mental stress I'm talking about. So what is so beautiful and unique about the internal guidance system and this tool as a personal development tool is your mental stress is completely unique to you. Nobody else has the exact mental stress themes, and stress defenses that you have. All right. And so the way that I like to explain this is you can go to a workshop and do some personal development work and find out that you have abandonment issues. They give you a list. Okay, this is what abandonment issues look like, and this is how it shows up in your life, and this is how it affects you in your relationships, and this is how you feel. And they can tell you all of that. And then you know, okay, that suits me. I have abandonment issues. And then my question for you is, where? When does it show up? With whom does it show up with? What is your first knee-jerk reaction? Is it that they've left you, or do you get angry when you're abandoned? Do you retract and collapse inside when you're abandoned? What happens to you when you're abandoned, right? There's a whole side of that. If you can't just blanket and say you all have abandonment issues, it's completely unique to you. It's based on how that abandonment issue came into being. Okay, so I tell a story where I was a little kid. I had abandonment issues. And when I was a little kid, my parents were at one of those huge RV parks where they were selling RVs. And they were going through the RVs looking at the different ones. And I needed to use the restroom. And so they told me, I was like 6, they told me where the bathroom was. And so I went going through, and when you're 6, these RVs are like giant, Grand Canyons. You're just kind of walking through them. I found the bathroom, and on my way into the bathroom, I saw a man, and it made me really uncomfortable. I went into the bathroom, and as I came out, he was still standing there, and I started walking. He was kind of in between my parents and me. The way I would have to go, I'd have to walk past him, and I didn't feel comfortable. So I turned around. I was kind of go around and away from him a different way, and he began to follow me. And then I got lost because I was terrified, and I climbed underneath a motorhome, and I could see his feet walking around. And that's when I started, like, around the motorhome that I was in, and I started screaming bloody murder, and he took off, and my parents came and found me. So how that showed up later in life is I was at a breakfast one day, Sunday, with a boyfriend, and we were done with breakfast, and I got up to go to the bathroom, and I came out, and he wasn't at the table. And then I went outside the restaurant, and he wasn't nowhere to be found. And I freaked out inside. I had a little mini panic attack. He had gone into a store, a couple doors down, to look at some clothing that he caught his eye, and he didn't tell me. And I freaked out. Okay, so and I felt abandoned. And when he came out, I was mad. I was yelling at him. He was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I was just freaked out. It's like, if your kid gets lost, and when you finally find the kid, you go from terror of him being lost to panic attack, and then to, "You're in trouble, buddy. You took off," right? And so I had this mad experience, and I really had to sit with it for a minute, and I was closed, because panic attacks are always closing. If you have not checked out the last episode that I did, I highly recommend that you do that. It was a December 18th episode, because I do go over how this works like a compass, and when you're super open or you're super closed, what that means and how it works. So definitely check that out. You're going to want that information. But I was super closed, and I knew it. And it's totally irrational. But it's my totally irrational moment. And it's unique to me. And when you're using the internal guidance system, you're in the moment, and you can feel the closing. And then the goal is to look at what you're thinking, because this sensation's inside of you. I promise you, all the things I listed that were mental stress earlier, the fear, the worry, the anxiety, the overwhelm, guilt, frustration, procrastination, all of that is closing, and it's always related to what you're thinking. And so when you understand what you're thinking, and that thinking is not true for you, and it's not taking you towards a successful, happy life, then you can begin to learn how to play with that thinking to find the opening. And that is the decoding that I did. And the practices that I created at fearfreehuman.com, you can go check it out. We've got our 2 entry courses. We've got a quick start and a deep dive. So you can go check them out. They're right there on the homepage. Highly recommend it. But the key is that as you're in the moment, that's why this is so darn cool. In the meeting at work, when you are having some mental stress come up about something, in the middle of a deep conversation that's uncomfortable and hard with a friend of yours, when you're alone in your car and something's happened that's triggered you, and you're sitting in the stuckness, right? You are able to process this. And when you find the opening, that new thought that's true for you, that opens you, begins to take root. And nobody needs to know you're doing it. It's the most private thing in the world. Not only is this personalized to the nth degree, because you're really working on your specific issue in the moment that it's happening, with the exact flavor of what it is that causes you to go awry and self-sabotage and have those knee-jerk reactions. You're in the moment able to do it. but it's private. You can literally sit there with your eyes open going, oh God, I am collapsing inside. This person just made me feel about that big in the middle of the business meeting. My boss is not paying, is kind of backing that up. I just went inside. I am no longer participating. I do not want this to be happening to me in my career. What am I thinking? Because that closing means what you're thinking in that moment, that sucking feeling. If you're, give me a comment here, by the way, if you know what I'm talking about, that where you're just all of a sudden your body feels like it's like hollowed out inside and you have that moment, right? That's a deep closing. That means what you're thinking is absolutely 100% not true. Totally not true. So that's really important. And the reason it's important is because in that moment, you can look at what your stress theme is that just hit you and took you out of the game. You can reconfigure your thinking. Oh, that comment wasn't meant to belittle me. You start working with the opening, and then you learn through the practices that I teach, right? You learn how to reopen back up and you're back in the game instantly. And nobody knew that you had that kick in the gut moment. Nobody knew that you did the work. It's completely and totally private and not obvious. Think about how powerful that is. Different areas of your life, different aspects of your life, different moments in your life when you're around people that have forever made you uncomfortable. How cool it is to be able to handle it in the moment. Come back into the game, and you just did something to fix it, because when the opening comes back up, there's a nervous system response, and it's the body that reprograms the mind. Okay, I do this exercise. I ask this question when I'm in live audiences and so forth, and it's, what color is a yield sign, right? And I ask the audience, and 90 to 95% say yellow and black, or yellow, right? And a yield sign is actually red and white. In 1974, the yield sign went from yellow and black to red and white. Now, for those of you who've just heard this for the first time on the recording, you pause it, go check out Wikipedia, it'll tell you this. And by 1976, all of the yield signs in the United States had been replaced with red and white ones. Now, year after year, I have gone on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. And when I put this out there and asked, George always says yellow and black. And I was just at an event in Seattle, and one of the women that came up to me in the middle of lunchtime and said, I was at your event last year. You asked the yield sign question, and I still said it was yellow and black, and you had given me the answer last year. What is going on with that? And here's the thing. No matter how many courses you do, no matter how many books you read, your mind cannot update itself. It takes the body to update the mind. I'm going to say that again. Your mind cannot update itself. It takes the body to update the mind. Your mind just does a knee-jerk reaction. And so you can put really good information in. You can put in all kinds of cool ways that shift your thinking and show up differently and more powerfully as an entrepreneur, or do it differently and be more patient as a mother, or be more comfortable with intimacy with your spouse. You can do all of that. But when that stress theme moment hits you, your mind will go right back to the same thing. But if I were to give you a box of a red crayon, you need a whole box, you just need the red one, and a white piece of paper, and had you color in a red yield sign, you will never forget it, because your body updated your mind. Well, the wonderful thing about the internal guidance system is when you get that opening, you've started a new neural pathway. The body is backing up the new thinking. And so you get the opening and you start a new thought, and the old one starts going neurally extinct. And when your mind goes back to try to have that thought again, you immediately close, and it doesn't feel true for you anymore, because you find that the opening is what feels true. The opening, it becomes your truth meter, and it really is a truth meter for you. And so as you're moving through your day, you are working on, number one, your absolute most personal issues that are completely unique to you. Number two, you're handling them in the moment. And number three, you're recreating what was past thinking, you're recreating with fresh new thinking that will stay with you and will carry you forward throughout your life. This stuff starts to go extinct. You start not having the reactions that are self-sabotaging and difficult and make you feel awful and stressed out and oppressed and have suffering in your life. You don't have that anymore using this work. And so I am so excited that I get to be bringing this show to you and be working with people so that you're going to start seeing, and we're going to get moving here in just a minute with a coaching client. Ron, I'm going to be up here in just a minute. what you're going to start seeing here is you're going to get to witness the going from that closing to that opening moment. You're going to start witnessing people updating their mind with their bodies. And then you'll also be hearing people as they come back around with success stories and letting us know how it actually turned out. Because that's one of the most powerful things is when you shift your thinking, the world around you changes. So Ron, we are bringing you on, bud. Hi. Hi. How are you?
Hello. Good.
Nice to meet you. I don't think we've met before. Have you been on any of my calls before?
This is the very first one.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you. So, what are we
Thank
working
you.
with today? What do you need some coaching with?
Grief.
Oh, baby. Yeah. So, tell me about it. What's been going on?
Well, oddly enough, I'm 7 years out from losing my wife, but I'm living in the same house that I nursed her through to her death, and here it is Christmas time, and the stuff comes back.
I understand. This summer, I went through that process with my mother-in-law, and my father-in-law and her were madly in love. So, tell me some of the thinking that's causing the suffering, the missing. What does it look like?
You know, I still wrestle with things that I would have done differently.
Okay.
Um, I she she got a cancer diagnosis in January of 17, and the cancer had metastasized so bad to her bones that she had taken a pratfall at work and it broke her back. And so she was bedridden, and it wasn't until after she was bedridden that we found out that it was because of cancer. So, anyway, the final month or 2 months, she was here at home under hospice care. And the night that she passed, I was standing there watching her dying and holding her hand. And I wanted to hold her to give her some comfort and some love, but I didn't feel like I could because her back was broken and I knew I'd hurt her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's one of the things I would have done differently.
Okay. Now notice the feeling in your chest and also the
Yeah,
solar plex. Do you feel that tightness, that anxiety, that
absolutely.
suffering?
Yeah.
Okay. That is closing. And it means what you're thinking is not true. Okay. So I know how hard it is because the reality that our minds generate is really real. And I understand that. But I want you to just try and shift the thinking with me and see if we can get a different response, a different sensation happening in the center of your body. Okay. Okay. I want you to hold the
Okay,
thought.
let me get a little better posture here.
There you
Okay, I'm
go.
sitting
Okay.
up.
All right. So just hold the thought. She knew I loved her. And that moment was perfect for both of us. She knew that I loved her. And that moment was perfect for both of us. Shift in that sensation. Does it feel a little lighter, tighter, or the same?
A little lighter.
Okay, so that now we're moving your thinking towards what is actually true. Okay, I was not with my mother-in-law the moment she died, but I was up until about 10 minutes before she passed because she wanted to be with my husband, her son. And I can tell you that one of the most important parts about when someone leaves is being at peace. And if you had hurt her, you would not want her to go from here to the other side in actual physical pain. That's not what you want the last thing for her to feel to be. And if you had picked her up or touched her or hugged her, the last thing her moment on planet Earth would have been physical pain.
That's exactly what I was trying to prevent, but it didn't
And you
seem
did.
right afterwards.
Well, yeah, but that was closing, which means that thought is not true. And I understand it was just a couple days ago going through. I wish I'd done things a couple things different with my mother-in-law, and I closed. And it's because, we're all doing the best we can. Period. It's not like you did anything on purpose. Even if there was moments of frustration or fear or anger that comes out because you're losing someone you love so much, right? Even then you're doing the best you can. You're not doing it on purpose. It's not a conscious effort. But I am here to tell you that in that moment, you did what it was the right thing. And now that you're back, you're looking at it and you're going back to it. That tight closing is your internal guidance system letting you know, don't hold that thought. Not only is it not serving you, but it's not true. It's not true.
Oh,
The
I know
last
it's
thing,
not. I know it's not serving me. Absolutely.
and it's not true. You shouldn't have held her in that moment because go ahead and hold the thought. I should have picked her up and held her. Hold the thought and notice what happens to your IGS. Do you tighten back down?
No, it feels more like a scrambling of thoughts.
Now talk about your
Eh,
body. Let's pay
I
attention to your body. What are the scrambling? Tell me the thoughts that are scrambling. Give me the scrambling pieces.
it's no, it's not thoughts. I'm having trouble grabbing a thought.
Yeah, that's normal. It takes practice to be paying attention to your thinking because we're not used to doing that. Have you done any of the coursework with me yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So it's
To be real
completely
honest with you, I don't even know how I got involved in this. I just started seeing emails showing up in my box, and when I saw that you were doing coaching, I'm saying I ought to go.
good. Good. Well, I'm glad you're here. Okay. So when you hold the thought, and it is difficult to grab onto our thoughts as we're trying to grasp for them in the very beginning. We're not used to paying attention to what we're thinking, even though it's happening all the time. So that's normal. There's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to go back and we're going to try to isolate a little bit of thinking up. Just tell me what you're thinking. We're going to work with the thoughts that you have. Okay. And so when you hold the thought, I did not show her enough love right before she died. I did not show her enough physical love before she died. I want you to notice what happens to your body in the center of your body. What's the feeling in here in the chest and your solar plex area right here? That's what we're looking for.
Could it be possible this is working very quick because I can't seem to grab that thought?
Anymore, it doesn't feel true anymore. Yes, it is very possible.
Yeah, I didn't
It doesn't feel
feel
real anymore.
anything from trying to grab that thought. No.
Yeah. So let's see if we can bring in a bigger opening, which is that moment was precious and it was perfect as it was. Do you feel expansion? Yeah.
I'm a very sensitive person. I'm very empathetic, and everything just turns me inside out. And so when I think of that, if you see what's happening to me, it doesn't mean I'm distressed. It can also
Yeah.
mean that I'm recognizing something good.
Yeah, I understand. I do the same thing. I cry all the time. I'm the same way. I get touched.
Yeah.
So the way that this works is as you feel thoughts, as you're moving through this grief, as you are having thoughts that feel like suffering and tightness, that thought is not true. What your mind is producing in that moment is false. And so you have to say, no, that's not true. So we use the phrase, I am closed. That means what I'm thinking is not true or not going to happen. And you'll feel that begin to lighten up. And then you look for what is true. And a lot of times in the situation for beginners, it's, I did the best I could. She was ready to go. the level of pain, it's better that she went that way. And, we found out early than to find, than we found out after she was in a whole lot of pain, right? There's just ways in which you look at it until you find that release. When that release happens, you've actually hit upon what's true. And you stay with that thought. Now, I was talking yesterday. Yesterday is a great episode to watch if you want. It was on December 18th. It's on YouTube. My mom died suddenly when I was 23. And I had just started learning to use the internal guidance system. I just started decoding it and figuring it out. And my mom and I were really close. And my boyfriend would go to work for about the first week. And as soon as he would leave, I literally would just collapse on the floor in the living room and cry and wail. It hurt so bad, I had to actually wail. A guttural animal sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, of the missing.
I know.
Yeah. And as I was in that experience, I was noticing that when I would have thoughts about, well, who's going to be there for me when I have my kids? And she's not going to see me graduate from college, and all the pity me thoughts, I would get this awful, sick, awful feeling inside, which is the closing of your IGS, meaning that that's not true, right? That's not going to happen. But whenever I'd be like how beautiful it was and how lucky I was and how smart she was and all the things that she taught me, that it had made me the woman that I am, I would feel this rush of expansion and this flood of love. In grief, we can hang on to the closing thoughts, but then we're not processing the grief. It's staying in our body on a cellular level, and those thoughts are not true. Or we can focus on the opening thoughts, which is allowing us to grieve, because all grief is love. It's having loved someone deeply and not being able to be with them anymore. Or having loved something like a career deeply and not being able to do it anymore, right? Grief is about a missing of something that's love.
Yes.
So you focus on how much you loved and how much she loved you. And that's how you process the grief. And the other things I can tell you, I have had the most wonderful women in my life over the years who have been a mother figure to me, who's helped me with my children, who was there when I graduated, who've shown up for me when I've needed them. I've never not had that energy. And it was true, laying there in the middle of the floor, wailing. Those thoughts were not true for me, and they did not come to fruition. I've always had a beautiful woman in my life to help me and to be in my life that way. So as you have been in this 7 years of processing this grief, it's really important for you to let go of the thoughts that are closing, that are tightening in your body, because they're not true and they won't let you move forward. And I know she would not want you to be in suffering because of missing her so much.
Do you know that it took this phone call? It took this call, this session, and you speaking to me for me to somehow get to the point of grasping that regardless of what I've been thinking for 7 years, I actually did the right thing. I couldn't get there by myself. I was absolutely certain that I messed up.
You didn't. You didn't. The last thing you would have wanted is her to feel that pain. What she felt was just getting to look in your eyes and holding your hand and then gently and sweetly release.
Well, she was too far gone to look at me, but I did hold her hand.
I understand. And you need to look at all the thoughts throughout the years of things in your marriage that are still haunting you, that are not true. See, I believe that we have soul family, that before we come here into this lifetime, that we make agreements with people to experience certain things. And that includes the things that are difficult and hard, mean, rough, not always perfect, right? Because it's in those challenges with each other that we grow, that we have forgiveness, that we have strength we rise back up, that we keep coming back and trying. Marriage is hard. I've only been married for 16 years, and it's tough. Just keep coming back, and even the times that were hard were perfect. All right. And
Well,
you
can
you
I
wouldn't be
share
here.
something with you?
I'd love to. Yes.
As a matter of fact, I met her in 1990, and because of some really bad things I learned from my dad, I was one of the worst serial cheaters you could imagine. And uh, I decided that we should get married um, November 27th of 98. It was on Thanksgiving Day, as a matter of fact.
I was going to say Thanksgiving Day.
And yeah, and my decision. And we got married, and I didn't change a single thing I was doing. I was still out there cheating. And it wasn't because she was a bad wife, because there was anything missing. It was because I was gluttonous, or whatever the heck you want to call it. And um, in January of 99, I was right here in this living room. And all of a sudden, I got a chest pain like I'd never had before. And I've had panic attacks, so I've had plenty of chest pains, but this was like no chest pain I ever got. And it caused me to sit down, and I was kind of clutching my chest. And then the next thing you know, here's God talking to me. And he said, "You know what? That's what she feels every time she knows you're doing what you're doing. That is exactly what she feels, and you need to know that." And it had me bawling, certainly worse than I am today. I was on my knees when she got home. I apologized to her. I let her know it was all over with. It wasn't going to ever happen again. And I asked her, I said, "I just got one question. You've hung around while I've been doing this jazz for 8 years. Why in the world did you do that?" She said, "Because I prayed every day about it, and every day God told me to stay because I knew there was a good man in there wanting to get out, and was going to get out. I just had to wait patiently." And so the bottom line to this story is, it was a complete correction of my behavior. Never looked back, never had any desires, no nothing. The only bad thing about it was that I dedicated myself to proving to her how much she did the right thing, and to try and in some way thank her for giving me 8 years when she didn't know there was ever going to be anything better. And so I had dedicated my life to seeing to it that I proved everything was different. And the worst part of it was, it seemed like I got cut short because I wasn't done yet.
I know. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I understand that cut short feeling. Just experienced it, like I said, with my mother-in-law, and my father-in-law is going through it right now. They were gross in love, disgusting. It was awful. We'd go to Disneyland with our 3-year-old son, and they'd be canoodling, looking at flowers and kissing after 30 years. And I'm like, "We got to go. This 2-year-old's racing around. We'll catch up with you guys later. Stop kissing. We'll see you later." I understand it. True love is a beautiful, amazing thing. And I'm really happy you got to experience it. But Ron, there's a reason why you're still here.
That's another one I struggle with, because my whole family's been cleaned out. So many of my friends have been cleaned out. Um, and I remember my dad used to live next door to me. And I remember one day I walked over there, and he was a big, burly guy, a truck driver. And I walked into his house one day, and I noticed he was sitting at his dining room table crying. And I asked him, I said, "What's wrong?" He says, "Son, I'm getting tired of burying my friends." I know exactly what he was talking about now.
I get it. I actually, it's so amazing to me, the synchronicity in this world. Do you know what I mean? Last night, I had a dream my husband died. I woke up in the middle of the night and I couldn't go back to sleep after that because my mom has passed, my dad, my brother, my aunt. Um, and it's pretty much, I've got wonderful friends, but if my husband went, and my mother-in-law, who is my super dear and clean, close to my heart, and I have a 10-year-old son, I understand. I was just sitting there realizing that I'm so alone as far as the immediate, my family, right? Where here comes Christmas. And if something happened to my husband, I don't know where I'd go or how it would be. I know God would take care of me. I know I'd find somewhere to go, but the loneliness, the scariness of having had so many people go, right? It was terrifying for a moment,
Yeah.
which is closing, meaning I'm not going to have loneliness in my life, even if my husband did pass, but I hear you. It's hard. And you're here for a reason. So I'd love for you to think about taking the program. It's called Fear Free Mind Experience. It's the 14-day short one. It's on fearfreehuman.com. Here's the reason why. The number one, it'll help you continue to get rid of the closings. It's super affordable, but it'll help you get rid of the closing feelings, the suffering you're in. But once you've gotten a lot of the closing tightness cleared out, there's a practice called flow, where you wake up in the morning, that you drop into your listening, and you can feel a pull come up out of you about the next right thing to go do. It could be making coffee. It could be playing and working on your yard. It could be futzing here or there. It could be going to a coffee shop out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you meet somebody and that person, and you start talking, and you have a really beautiful piece of information that they need, that God needs you to give them. But this flow energy, it's the thing that lines us up with our purpose on a daily basis. It will literally move you into where you are supposed to be, and also reveal to you why you're still here. And it's all you have to do.
Wow.
Is pay attention to this energy flowing through you. Okay. And you'll be in the right place at the right time to do what you're here to do. And that it's so fulfilling because you'll feel it. You'll feel the moment where this thing happens, where you're like, that was why I was here today.
Wow.
Okay.
I without Ben in your ear, I'm not going to tell you a bunch of stuff, but just short story. I've dealt with depression all my life for a lot of different reasons, and in my quest to figure out this thing sitting on my shoulders, I could walk you into the office, and my office, and I could show you a wall littered with plaques. I'm an NLP practitioner. I've been a certified hypnotherapist, timeline therapy. I mean, you name it, EFT practitioner, you name it, I've tried it. So, and yet, the interesting thing about this is I was very good at making those things work for other people, but they didn't seem to hold the answer for me.
So it's interesting. I have found that depression, if it's not a chemical depression, it's an emotional depression, is because we're not on our life's blueprint. Our purpose isn't being fulfilled. And was there something you left behind that you just didn't think you could ever do? You were too old, or it wouldn't make enough money, or wasn't something you could do? People talked you out of it. Wasn't the smart thing the right thing?
Well, as a matter of fact, I cut short I actually did a hypnotherapy practice right here out of my house. And that's probably one of the safer practices you can be involved in terms of liability and stuff. But I have to tell you, the first time I found myself alone in my office with a woman, I thought, oh my God, Ron, do you know what could happen from something like this? And I don't mean because it was something I'm going to do.
No,
I
I
just mean
know.
just because of,
False accusations and
yeah. And so that right there was enough to make me stop. And I don't necessarily think that hypnotherapy is the vehicle, but the thing, I am at my happiest when I'm finding a way to serve people and help them in ways like this.
So that fear that you felt, that terror, of something happening is closing, meaning that is not true and not going to happen. Okay?
Okay.
So it would be really beautiful for you to start working with the flow energy and see where you're led. Because your happiest at serving people was cut short by a false thought that was closing. And it's really important for you to get back to serving people.
Wow. And this is so interesting. I'm definitely a person who believes in kismet.
Me too.
And this is why. You don't know how many times I've looked up at my ceiling or up at the sky and said, God, if you could just point me where I'm supposed to go, please, I'm an open vessel. I'm ready. I'm willing. If you just point me where I'm supposed to go.
Yes.
But I don't get any answers.
Well, you do now. I'm telling you, this will work. I've got Sylvia here, and she's made a couple comments on YouTube. One of them is, the universe sent you the emails. Your wife guided you to this, is what Sylvia says. And then the next thing that she wrote was, and I was thinking the same thing, you could videotape the hypnosis sessions to protect yourself, which is very easy to do nowadays. But it's less than that. I mean, it's not less than that. That's wonderful. But my point is that, man, you got to get back on the horse and start serving people again. And I'm telling you right now, the internal guidance system will help you. It'll guide you opening to opening to opening. And then I do this coaching so you can keep coming back for more, and we'll figure out why you're here and what you're here to be doing, because people need you.
Will you be sending me something that'll guide me into being able to sign up for this and all of that?
Yes. I'll send an email out tomorrow morning to the whole list, and you can grab it and sign up, okay?
That would be wonderful.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and lovely and coming on and sharing your experience with all of us. I appreciate you so much.
Well, you know what? When you have the proper scenario, the proper surroundings, you can feel free to do that. And you certainly exude that sort of thing. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sending you big love, sweetheart. And I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I've called in today. I've bypassed a couple of these emails, and I've been having trouble the last couple of days, and I thought, you know what, today's the day, and obviously it was.
And you know what? I'm on almost every day until the end of the year, so you can just pop on and listen. And if you have any more really big suffering thoughts, come get more coaching. Let's have this Christmas shift it. If those thoughts are coming up, it's time to let them go. Okay? You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I will do that.
Good.
And this one gem that you gave me today is it's worth every tear I shed today.
Good, honey. Everybody's like, welcome, Ron, and we've got big smiles, and everybody's very happy you're here.
All right. Thank you so much, you and everyone.
You're welcome. All right, love. I'll see you soon. All righty. So thank you. Gosh, Ron, that was so beautiful. I really appreciate you. So glad. So I am back tomorrow. Let me give you we don't have anybody else that's needing coaching. Pay attention to the emails. Please invite a friend. One thing you could do that would be really helpful is subscribe on YouTube. We've got almost 100 subscribers. Our goal is 1,000 subscribers, because at 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, this channel gets monetized. And it's not like it's going to make a bunch of money. But what happens when that gets to that place is YouTube starts sharing it with other people. So YouTube starts putting it in front of people that you wouldn't necessarily see it. Okay. And so it's something that you could do in exchange for me is to go ahead and subscribe and also share it. If you have people that are in pain, that are in stress, that are having anxiety and worry and fear and overwhelm, share this, bring them, let them see what's going on here so they don't have to be in that anymore. And then tomorrow at 2:00, Pacific Standard Time, I will be back here coaching again. I take Saturdays off because I'm a Sabbath keeper. I really like worshiping my beautiful, lovely love of God on Saturdays. And then I'm back on Sunday again. So I love you all. I really appreciate you being here. Spread the word. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 2. I'm sending you love and blessings. Go forth and have an amazing day. Bye for now.